Football is back this week, so we're going to go ahead and predict every single game from week 1. I will be doing this every single week, so hit that subscribe button to follow along and see how I do. Kicking us off on Thursday, we have the Ravens at the Chiefs. This will be an interesting one. These two teams just played in the AFC Championship last season, and sadly for every football fan, the Ravens lost to the Taylor Swift Chiefs. Since then, there have been some changes for both teams. For the Chiefs, their most notable pickups being Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, while the Ravens' most notable pickup being Derrick Henry, and their biggest loss, Patrick Queen. I do think this game will be a higher scoring one than their last matchup, as the Ravens always seem to perform much better in the regular season. One thing to also note is that the Chiefs have won 8 of their last 9 season openers. With all that being said, I'm going to take the Chiefs at home, winning out by a touchdown, 34-27. Next up, we've got the Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in what is going to be an international game taking place over in Brazil. Everyone is hyped up about the Packers this year. I'm not sure why. They did almost beat the 49ers in the divisional round, but I think they're a year away from competing for the Super Bowl. I do think Jordan Love is that guy for the Packers, but this game, I think the Eagles, with all their experience and the new addition of Saquon Barkley, will be too much. I do expect the Eagles to do much better this year, and I'm sure they'll come into this season with a chip on their shoulder after finishing last season the way they did. So I have the Eagles edging out the Packers, 30-24. Now we move over to the Sunday night games, where we have the Panthers taking on the Saints in the Superdome. Carolina does have a new head coach in Dave Canales, but I'm not expecting much of a difference in week 1. Bryce Young does have a couple more weapons to throw the ball to this season in Deontay Johnson and Xavier Leggett, but I do think the Saints defense will be too much for Bryce in week 1. The Saints' only notable signing this offseason being Chase Young, but I am expecting a much better Derek Carr this season working under the new offensive coach, Clint Kurbach. Do expect a low-scoring affair here. I have the Saints taking the win, 24-13. Next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. Now, I don't think this will be a good game to watch. With rookie QB JJ McCarthy out for the season, they now look to Sam Darnold, who is either complete trash or playing like the best QB in the league, and the majority of the time, it's the former. They did go out and get Aaron Jones from the Packers, but he is getting on the older side. The New York Giants are arguably in a worse spot than the Vikings this season, having paid Daniel Jones already, who in my opinion is just another Sam Darnold if not worse. And then on top of that, they go and lose Saquon Barkley to the Eagles during the offseason. They did, however, draft LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers, who I think will be the best wide receiver of this draft. With all that being said, I'm going to flip my coin and go with Danny Dimes to get it done at home, beating out the Vikings 24-20. That brings us to the New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. This should be a pretty straightforward pick. I don't think the Patriots really have much to offer this season, and I expect Drake May to be starting by the end of the year. I do think this will be a big year for the Bengals. I actually have Burrow winning MVP this season if he can stay healthy. There is some drama around Jamar Chase for an extension heading into week 1, but I doubt he will sit out. Either way, I have the Bengals winning 30-16. Then we go over to the Steelers at the Falcons. 2 teams with 2 new quarterbacks. 1 in Russell Wilson for the Steelers and 2 for Kirk Cousins for the Falcons. Now the Steelers really haven't had much of an offense since losing Big Ben, and now I've gone out and got Russell Wilson on a minimum contract after that terrible year with the Broncos. I actually think he'll be much better this season. It's a much more completed team compared to his last one. The only issue now is that he's in the best division in football. Now the opposite could be said for Kirk Cousins, as he's arguably in the worst division in football. The Falcons seem to be going all out this season, getting players like Justin Simmons and Matt Judon. I do expect to see a few picks this game from both sides, but I think at the moment the Falcons have the better team on paper. So I have the Falcons winning 21-17. That takes us to the Texans at the Colts, a game that I'm really excited about. 2 up-and-coming teams with young quarterbacks. The Colts get Anthony Richardson back from injury, so I'll be looking out for him to have a bounce-back season. Now these 2 teams did play at the end of the year, with the Texans actually beating the Colts and knocking them out of playoff contention. I'm expecting a similar result this game. I just think the Texans are too good. And now you go get a guy like Stephon Diggs to add to that already stacked offense. I got them going deep this season. Anyway, I think the Texans will be too good for the Colts here, so I have them winning 28-21. Now we go over to the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Buffalo Bills. I do think this will be a high-scoring affair, with the Cardinals back with Kyler Murray healthy to start the season, with a new wide receiver in Marvin Harris Jr. I think the Cardinals will be a team to watch out for this year, as they have all the weapons on offense to score a lot of points. It'll just come down to whether or not their defense can get some stops when it matters, which will be hard to do against a guy like Josh Allen. Now, the Bills did lose their 2 best wide receivers in Diggs and Gabe Davis, But when you have a guy like Josh Allen who can do anything, you can't count them out. With all of that said, I actually have an upset here with the Cardinals taking the game away with a game-winning drive, 34-30. Now on to another young quarterback matchup with Tennessee Titans Will Levis taking on Chicago Bears Caleb Williams. I think this will be a really good game. I do expect some nerves from Caleb Williams as it's week 1, so don't be surprised if it's a slow start for him. Chicago's defense is looking really good this season, and if Williams can live up to half the hype, they will be a really dangerous team this year. The Titans won't be a pushover though, with Will Levis heading into year 2 and the Titans making a good pickup in Tony Pollard to replace Derrick Henry in the running back position. I do think the Bears defense will be the difference maker this game, so I have them winning 20-17. Now to what I think will be one of the games of the week, with the Jacksonville Jags taking on the Miami Dolphins. I'm expecting an absolute shootout this game, with both Hill and Waddle putting up massive numbers as the Jags don't have the defensive backs to match up with them, but I do expect the Jags to come out swinging. I do think Trevor Lawrence takes a big step forward this year, proving that he's worth all that money he just signed for. But with all that said, I've got the Dolphins winning this game 37-27. Next up, we've got the Denver Broncos taking on the Seattle Seahawks, with Bo Nix being named starter for week 1 over Jared Stidham. Expect him to come out and try to prove why he was named QB1. It won't be an easy task against this Seahawks defense. With a great defensive line and back, I do expect to see some struggles out of Nix early. The Seahawks are going into year 3 with Geno Smith, and I'm not really expecting much of a change from him. They haven't really lost any notable weapons this offseason, so I expect them to be competitive. With all of that said, I think this will be a pretty easy game for the Seahawks, winning 24-14. That then takes us to the Raiders taking on the Chargers, two pretty average teams heading into this season. Both teams losing weapons in the offseason, with the Raiders losing Josh Jacobs and the Chargers losing Keenan Allen. I do think this will be a pretty competitive game though. I expect Minshew to actually throw the ball to Devontae Adams this season, and I'm also excited to see how Brock Bowers goes. Herbert is clearly the better QB in this matchup. I do expect their defensive line to give Minshew some trouble, so I have the Chargers taking out this one in a really close battle, finishing 27-24. Next up, we've got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Cleveland Browns, where the Cowboys have finished up 12-5 over the last 2 seasons, but just haven't been able to get anything going in the postseason. The Browns finished second in their division last year, and I expect them to be good this year too, and honestly, probably have one of the best teams on paper. Chubb will be out week 1 with an injury, and I do think Dak is the better quarterback in this matchup, but I really think it's going to come down to whose defense shows up more. Now the Cowboys aren't the same team when they play away, but I do think they can get it done in week 1, so I have them winning this out 20-17. Next up, we've got the Commanders taking on the Buccaneers. You have rookie QB Jaden Daniels, who in my opinion is the best QB in this draft, taking on Baker Mayfield, and I'm expecting a strong start from Daniels. I really think he's going to come out and set the tone. He's looked really good in training camp and preseason, and I'm excited to see what he can do with Scary Terry in this offense. This will be year 2 with Baker, and he was surprisingly good last season with the Bucs. Really didn't lose anybody on the offensive side of the football. They do have a glaring weakness, that being their run game. But if Baker can produce like he did last season, the Bucs will be competitive this year. Anyway, I have a come from behind win here. I think the Commanders come out strong, but the experience of the Bucs gets it done, winning 28-24. And for the last game on Sunday, we've got the LA Rams taking on the Detroit Lions, with both Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff playing off against their former teams. I expect the Lions to be one of the best teams again this year, with one of the deeper teams on paper. I think the Rams are one of the more average teams this year after arguably losing the best defensive lineman ever in Aaron Donald. Their offense should still be good with Puka and Kupp, but I think the Lions will just be too good at week 1 at home, so I have the Lions taking this out 33-20. And to round out the week, we've got the New York Jets taking on the San Francisco 49ers, and what will be the game of the week for me. We have Aaron Rodgers returning from injury after being out all of last season to an already stacked defense and capable offense. I think this year Garrett Wilson takes a massive leap in production, with the first good quarterback he's had since being in the NFL. They also went out and got Mike Williams from the Chargers, who will fit nicely alongside Wilson. Then you have the 49ers, who just fell short in an overtime game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, coming back this season looking for redemption. With weapons like McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo, this is set up to be a masterclass of a game. I really think this game is going to come down to the coaches, as both teams just stack up with each other so well on paper. But with all of that said, I have the Jets to make a statement to start off the season, beating the 49ers in a nail-biter, winning 23-21 with a game-winning field goal. Anyway, let me know what you think about my picks below. I'll keep a track of my win/loss ratio heading into each week. So if you want to follow along, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, bye.